Hi, everybody. My name's John Lacey, and this is
Coffee and content.
the weekly live stream about video, live streaming, and content creation. Thank you for joining me. Today, we're going out on Facebook, LinkedIn Live, and also YouTube. So if you're watching live in the comments, let me know where you're coming to me from. I'd love to hear about that today. Today, we're going to be talking about really your content creation process. And before we get stuck into that, Garen Belaney's out there in the chat enjoying some pizza this evening, which is exciting. I think before I get started, I probably should do this because it wouldn't be coffee and content without it. So yes, of course, the obligatory sip of coffee there. With coffee, all things are possible. And speaking of things that are possible, today I want to talk to you about your content creation process and some of the things that I've been doing. Recently, Sam Proof and I have been talking about video and live streaming in a new sort of show format, and I just want to unpack some of the things that we're doing over there and how they might actually apply to your own content creation process. So the first thing I want to say is that if something is worth saying once, it's worth saying more than once. And I think sometimes creators can be so self-conscious. They think, "Oh, I've mentioned this, I've posted about it. I don't want to, harp on with the same message over and over again." But the truth is, not everyone's going to see that thing if you post it once. The social media algorithms are very, very fickle. They don't have a lot of reach. So if there is something that's really important to you and you need to express it, and you've spent the time, energy, and creativity to actually create something that you're proud of, then I really want you to repurpose it, repackage it, and keep bringing it out to the world, because people need your information. They need your message. They need your spin on things. So make sure you're actually doing that. And I know that's, especially if you're new to content creation, that can be a strange thing to wrap your brain around. But it's really, really important you do so. And especially if you're creating perennial content, if you're creating content that has some depth to it and can be as useful today as it is 6 months from now. So keep that in mind as we move forward. So let's duck over to here. And I'm just going to share my screen with you and talk you through some things. So I don't know if you've had a chance to actually see it, but Sam Proof and I have been talking about video and live streaming news lately. I'm going to talk to you about how we actually do that, and then how I actually edit and repackage that content. So the first thing that we do is we think about what we're going to talk about. If there's any sort of newsworthy stuff out there on the internet about the topic we're discussing, we sort of trade notes, and we come together and sort of discuss, what we want to focus on that particular week. And then we actually go into Restream. So Restream Studio, that way I can actually record the conversation we're having. It's all very straightforward. I do feel a little bit limited by the Restream default sort of layouts. And for that reason, we also actually use OBS Studio to record what we're doing individually. And this is great for a number of different reasons. Not only do we have the original source files, so if I want to edit them differently, I certainly can do that. But also, if anything happens with any of those 3 recordings, we have some sort of backup. So that's really, really important. And once we do that, I'll just show you Camtasia. So this is, and of course, naturally, it's started at a really attractive screenshot of me there. So we might scroll forward a little bit. So essentially, this is one version of the completed project. And I'm going to just unpack some of this for you. So if I'm going to hide a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of tracks here. I just want to talk you through the different parts of this. All right. So I've got, to start off with, this is actually, sorry, not that one. This one here. This is actually the recording straight out of Restream Studio. So we're both on camera here. We've both got our audio in this section. But like I say, we also have the opportunity to record ourselves separately. So I've done that there with myself, and Sam's provided me with his file. Sam is actually a great example because in Restream Studio, he put a blur effect on the backgrounds, which he didn't use in OBS Studio. So you can sort of see that quite dramatically change there. One of the big things for pre-recorded material for really any kind of video content is that you want to consider the accessibility. And captions are super, super important. There's a number of different ways to get started with video captions. And I sort of alluded to one last week. There are all sorts of AI tools that will help you get started. But even once I've got those in there, I do like to bring them into Camtasia. And then I can go in and sort of edit these just to make sure that they're correct. I'll think about how I want to incorporate them in my video. You can actually export the SRT file. So you can bring that into your video software of choice. But another thing that I like to do is actually have them burnt physically onto the video. So when I export this, those are always on. And I think, in some ways, I really like that approach because not everybody's got their audio going when they enjoy your video. And I think it's a great way of having that there. So I've also got some branding elements. I've got my logo. I've actually got a grey bar, which I've sort of deliberately incorporated into most of my videos just as a place for those captions to live that will be burnt on. I've come in here and I've actually, in fact, before we get to track 8, that's something slightly different again. So I've got another track where I incorporate some B-roll. So again, we're talking about YouTube. We're talking about live streaming. So a lot of these things are actually screenshots of YouTube. Some of these I've incorporated some animation on. Some of them I've just left as is. But it's also a good opportunity to sort of demonstrate what you're talking about while you're talking about it. And I say while people are watching it, essentially, because this isn't something I did during this conversation. This was something I recorded a little bit later on. And we can do that for all our features. We were talking about the Twitch guest star beta function last week, and I've sort of included that there as well. So what I do is I actually come through, I save my file. I've got a vertical video here that's sort of good to go. And then I can export that. And after I export that, I'll actually just come up in Camtasia and I'll go save as, and I'll save another version of this again. Didn't mean to bump that. Let's just reposition it. And I can save a number of different versions. So I don't need to change my files, but it gives me some opportunities to do a few other things. So I saved a version of this horizontal video, and I actually decided, we need a version for YouTube. So in the version for YouTube, and I'll have to actually make this track visible, there's a bit of an animation for the YouTube subscribe that pops in, and I can just, that's literally part of my my Camtasia library, so I can drag that onto whatever I'm working with. That happens, but another thing that also happens is sort of at the end of this video, and it goes on for a little while, there's actually, and I might need to enable some more tracks. There we go. So we sort of finish our conversation here, and there's a, actually, if I bring in track 1, I think is the gradients for this. I sort of have 15-20 seconds at the end of this video, and that's for the YouTube end cards. And I don't know if you're aware of what they are, but essentially you have, once the content of your video is finished, you'll often have these options pop up to watch another one of your videos, maybe look at a playlist, maybe subscribe to your YouTube channel. And all you need to do is just sort of make sure that you've got that sort of 15-20 seconds baked into the video at the end. So I include that there as well. And again, I just export it. I'm good to go. I've got my captions all ready to go. And that's a slight variation on the theme for YouTube specifically. So, I mean, there we go. We've already got a couple of different versions of these files. And I'm going to open up another one just to show you another approach to all of this. Okay, so all right. Having a little bit of trouble opening that file. So let me just sort of explain what I did with this one. We won't go to the effort of recreating all of it, but the nice thing about this, like I've used the Restream version on the bottom of this to essentially sync us into position. But because I do also have my video here and Sam's video there as well, I can actually come up and modify our project settings. So again, I'm in Camtasia. I can go custom. I can go, 1080 by 1920. And I can actually, and I just want to show you that we can bring those in here. So anyway, I kind of made a bit of a mess with my file here. So let me just show you sort of conceptually what that looks like. If I go back to my folder, and you'll see here too that I've got a number of different projects here. I've got a number of different folders here as well. So for the vertical video, there are a few different attempts of this. I might even just view this as details, and we'll look at the most recent ones. So I've got my MP4 file. And naturally, that's defaulted to the other screen. Let me drag it over. So essentially, like all I've done is I've opted for a vertical format here. I've rearranged the video. I've actually brought in some text at the top just to explain what we're working on. And that's, that wasn't a massive undertaking. That was a very simple thing to do. And that way I could sort of bring that information into formats that might prefer that vertical format. I could cut this into segments for YouTube Shorts, for Reels on Instagram. There's all kinds of opportunities to be had here as well. So if you have your basic components and you sort of understand how your video editing software works, there are a lot of things you can do relatively simply. So in addition to that, and again, I want to talk to you about actually thinking about how you store your content, because sometimes it can be so tempting just to have a stream of consciousness thought and just write it out on Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever and just call it a day. But I think it's really worthwhile to actually save those somewhere on your computer, on your cloud storage, because you probably will want to refer to that. And the great thing about actually having a library of content to draw upon is you don't have to recreate the wheel every single time from scratch. So if you do actually have some existing resources, you can remix them. You can put them in different sizes, formats, lengths. You can add some different music to them. Like there's all kinds of opportunities. And I think, the danger sometimes is we do it once, we say it's done, we move on, we create something again from scratch. And again, there are efficiencies to be had by using existing things. But even more than that, I think, you have a message that's worth repeating. So we learn through a certain amount of repetition. And it may be that, I saw a great tip that you had once upon a time, and I thought that was amazing, but I didn't act on it. I didn't save that video somewhere. And then I get another reminder 3 months later and I go, that's, I've been thinking about that ever since. I couldn't find it for whatever reason. And there it is for me. So in terms of these videos, you can see there's a whole bunch of different variations here with the YouTube end cards. There's a horizontal option, there's a vertical option. Restream actually has the ability to upload. You can upload a file and it will treat it like a live stream. So it'll actually go out to your various places. And I personally find this is really, really useful for Twitter, where the uploaded video, I think, can only be 2 minutes and 20 seconds long, whereas a live stream can be as long as it needs to be. So I also do a version for Twitter. One glitch I did discover was that Restream did seem to be cutting off the first sort of 3 or 4 seconds of my video. They did recommend I sort of reach out to support. I didn't really get around to doing that. So my little workaround was just to add the the video thumbnail to the first 5 seconds of the video, and you'll see a little bit of that. Really, not even 2 seconds worth. It's not a lot of time, but it just ensures that the video starts where I expect it to start. And again, I can reschedule that as often as I like. It may be something that I want it to actually go out in the middle of the night to see if I can reach out to a different audience. And I can certainly schedule that as well. The other thing too, we talked about captions. Captions are so important. I highly recommend that you use captions, whether it's closed captioning or open captioning. That's something for you to consider. So essentially, you can either have them burnt onto the video, or you can have them uploaded as a separate file, and then YouTube or whatever video player you're using will let the user turn them on or off. I often use a combination of those things depending on what I'm working with. But another thing I really recommend is that, and actually it's not even in this folder, so give me a second just to locate that one. But I've actually created a bunch of notes for when I want to upload this to various places. Okay. All right, let's just share that again. All right, so and this is just text file. I love text files. I actually write a lot of notes in Notepad because I don't have the distraction of the formatting. It's literally just me and my thoughts. So here, this is just the notes. So live video and live streaming news with Sam Proof and John Lacey. And again, depending on the platform, those may actually be sort of handles for that platform. Link me out. I've actually collected some timestamp dates for YouTube specifically. I've got a link to my website, which includes more information about this particular episode, and I've sort of got the bios and things. So, if there are hashtags that relate to this, it's a good idea to actually record them somewhere, because that's the big thing. If if you build a massive following on YouTube and for whatever reason you lose access to that account, it gets suspended, do you know where all your source materials are? Can you recreate that somewhere else? These are really important considerations. And even just having sort of file naming conventions so you can go back and find things when you need them is really, really useful and really important. So those are a couple of the things that I kind of recommend that you think about in terms of actually repurposing, repackaging, even more than repurposing your content. So obviously different platforms prefer different types of content. Maybe you had a long conversation, you need to take the greatest segments out of that for, a pithy 60-second video or a 90-second video. You can certainly do that. You've got your transcript. You can repurpose that into an article, a text post. You've got all kinds of things at your disposal. So I guess I'd sort of encourage you to think outside the box a little bit. One other thing, which is really cool. So this is in Camtasia specifically. All right, so let me share that. So Camtasia, it's a great piece of software. There's lots of great editing software out there. It probably doesn't matter which one you use. Just find something that works for you and commit to it and really learn it. Camtasia specifically is sort of designed for screen capture videos, and it has some really cool things in there that help you zoom in and accentuate parts of the screen and make the cursor bigger and change the cursor path. So if you are creating, those kinds of videos, it is definitely a good choice. But one of the nice things about Camtasia is it has a library feature. So in our library feature, we have all kinds of options to sort of create our own resources and, potentially even buy third-party resources and include them in there as well. So if you've got little segments, you can actually, I can select a couple of things here. It'll, I don't think you'll see that there without me resizing that screen a little bit. So just give me 1 second. Not that. Okay. So what I can do is if I can actually click on things within my timeline and I can add them to the library. So I can create different libraries. I've got different libraries for different things in here. I can say whether I'm using the whole canvas size of the video or just the things that are visible in that particular section of it. And then I can save them over here and I can reuse those. So sometimes, if I have a large conversation and I'm cutting up sections of that for shorter videos, I can save those into my library. Um, Even little things like, the YouTube video that the subscribe button that I sort of alluded to on this screen, like that's literally just a resource that I can drag and drop from my library onto any video I'm working with. I've got some sort of funny, silly little animation things of myself here. Um, I've even got, sort of smaller segments that I can reuse and recycle. I've got backgrounds. I've got the gray bar in horizontal and vertical formats. There are all these things that I don't need to recreate from scratch. So again, you don't necessarily need to use Camtasia, but think about the opportunities that exist in your own editing software and what can you build elsewhere and actually recycle or reuse. So those are my thoughts for you this weekend. I say this weekend, it's Saturday in Australia. You may still be in a time zone where Friday is happening. So I hope you enjoy your weekend when you get there. I'm going to take one more sip. So thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you've got something out of that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on your individual production and content creation processes. I think it's fascinating the way that we can learn from each other. So if you've got something you'd like to share, reach out to me. You can head over to johnlacey.com and find links to all the social media things and some more information about this and other aspects of content creation, video, and live streaming. So have a great week, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for your company.